On today's show, we're going to help you renew your mind. Because it was and is true that when the legendary self-help author Napoleon Hill once wrote, "You would take drastic steps to get rid of any poison that has found its way into your food. So let it be with fear, the mind poison."
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrivetime Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom.
Yes, and yes. Well, folks, on today's show, I want to talk about what is the purpose of a business. Many people buy a business, they start a business for different reasons. I would think, though, at the core, most people buy a business so they can create time freedom and financial freedom so they can pursue whatever it is they believe that God's called them to do or whatever they believe they're called to do with their day. And one great way to minimize your risks and one way to optimize your probability of success is to buy a proven franchise. Now, just to let you know a little backstory here, very, very few companies successfully open up 10 franchises. Very few businesses scale to 10 locations. Even fewer scale to 200 locations. Almost nobody ever opens up 300 locations. Almost nobody else opens 400 locations. And almost nobody ever opens up 500 locations. But OxyFresh.com is a franchise business that now has over 500 plus units. And here to talk about it is the franchise brand developer, the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Klein. Welcome to the Thrivetime Show. How are you, Matt?
I am doing excellent. Thanks for having me.
Matt, why do people buy businesses? When people go to OxyFresh.com and they say, man, I want to open a franchise, what is the driver you most often hear?
They're just really unhappy with their current employment, or they don't have employment, or they really just feel like they're financially not where they need to be. It all does really boil down to having more financial freedom at some point, right? There's very few people that are coming to me saying, I just really want to own a company as a hobby, right? Most people need to make money. They need another opportunity. They need to diversify. Maybe they need to just get themselves out of their kind of situation that they've been stuck in for a long time. You get the occasional people that, it's just a great fit. Maybe it's a retired military veteran with a pension and they just don't want to go into the corporate world. So that's great. So I see it all. I mean, when you have the numbers of franchises we do, I've had kids that just say, I don't want to go to college and I don't want to work for someone. I want to try my hand at business ownership. So we have it all at this point.
Now, Matt, when people buy a franchise, what's the first question that people ask before they decide to buy one? Are people wanting to know, what are the services you offer? What do I have to learn? What does it cost? What are the most common questions people ask you when they look to buy an OxyFresh.com franchise?
Yeah, it's like, how much does it cost? What do I get for it? What am I actually buying, right? What's the support? Why would I choose you other than just doing it on my own? That's a big question that's pretty easily answered, right? Just general basic knowledge of like, what is a franchise, right? Why am I paying you? What is the value that I'm getting? Also a big one for me is there territory available in my area? So all those things are coming into play in that first call that we have.
I find that a lot of people have mental blockage too. Mental blockage. What am I saying? I'm saying for some reason people are so filled with or surrounded by a lack of opportunity, or maybe negativity is everywhere. Or maybe they've never met somebody who's been successful. And I find just having that initial consultation with you and your team often allows people to see there's a whole different world that exists. If you're out there today and you're going, man, I've never had success. I've been in business for a decade or more, and I've never really figured it out. And buying a franchise really does eliminate many of the potential reasons that a business would fail. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I know there's somebody you've probably reached out to, or some buddies in the past that have reached out to you that didn't even quite frankly understand the possibilities that a franchise offered because they had some mental blockage and they maybe didn't even quite understand what a franchise was.
Yeah, I think it's big. Most people don't realize franchising is even an option. They don't know that we're doing a lot of things that most people would scare people away from becoming a franchise, like marketing, infrastructure, R&D on the product that they're using. right? So, yeah, I mean, just from what is a franchise all the way down to like what our marketing strategy is. My first calls can go in all sorts of different directions, but it's usually just a breakdown of who we are as a company, what we do, why you'd use us, what we provide in terms of operational support, how much does it cost, and is the territory open? It's like pretty simple breakdown there of all that.
Now, let me get into 5 areas of what I perceive to be mental blockage, and you can rebuke me and say, I don't agree with these. But I think the first area I see a lot where people are stuck mentally is they just have a fear of the unknown, maybe a fear of the economy, a fear of, is the economy getting worse? Is it getting better? Is now a good time to buy a franchise? I don't know. I think fear is a big thing. Matt, do you run into fear as a typical common thing that people are working through?
Yeah, I would say fear. I would say lack of confidence is causing the fear, right? I think people's confidence in themselves is one of the biggest factors other than money that stops them from moving forward. It's not the business model. It's not franchising. It's that they just don't think that they maybe can do it. And you know what? In some cases, that's probably correct. But my goal is to show them that we are doing a lot of things for them. We're taking off a lot of heavy lifting, but there is still an element of that person, right? They have to run the company.
Now, step number 2, I want to get it. So step number 1, again, I'm just walking through these 5 most common areas of mental blockages. One, I perceive and I see a lot that people have just a fearful mindset. And Napoleon Hill, best-selling author of Think and Grow Rich, he once said, you would take drastic steps to get rid of any poison that found its way into your food. So let it be with fear, the mind poison. So I'm just saying, if you're right there today and you're struggling with fear, just go to oxyfresh.com, schedule a free consultation, and Matt will walk you through the process. Maybe it's a good fit, maybe it's not, but just the fear of the unknown. Let's move into the certainty of whether it's a good fit or not by going to oxyfresh.com. Number 2, changing your physical environment. I find that a lot of people, Matt, are in an environment where nobody around them is successful. And just coming out to Denver and meeting you and the OxyFresh team for the Discovery Day, that alone is enough many times to get people unstuck, because people, a lot of times, they don't even realize how toxic their environment is. Could you talk about the experience that someone would have if they come out to oxyfresh.com for a Discovery Day?
Yeah, what we'll do is, one, we want you to see a company culture of success. We want you to see that people are working hard for you. We want you to know that when things aren't perfect, you have someone to reach out to. But there's also an element of like, we're working hard for you. You should be working hard for yourself, right? That environment thing is good because, yeah, if you're always surrounded by people that are complaining about their job, but they're unwilling to change it, like you're in a loser mentality, it's really hard to break out of that. For us, it's like, you need to get up every day, get to work, change your future by your efforts. And when you're stuck, you ask questions. But it's not like you invest in OxyFresh and then we just do it all for you. It's very much a two-way street. It's a hand-holding. But the rubber meets the road with the franchisee's ability to do the things that's going to make them better than the competition. And it's not hard stuff, it's just they need to do it. So coming out to Colorado, we set the standard, we go through all that. We show you how to do things, even down from just like mixing the product and organizing your vehicle to how you actually go get reviews. Like it's all really important.
It's so simple. It's step by step. You guys have broken it down to make it easy for anybody to do. Again, common cause of failure number 2 I see, or common cause of mental blockage, is you're just surrounded by negativity. And Napoleon Hill, best-selling author of Think and Grow Rich, who I named my son after. My son's name is Aubrey Napoleon Hill Clark. He said, you are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. I think it's important to think about that. You can make your life what you want it to be. And if you're watching this show right now and your life isn't what you want it to be, you can change it to a certain extent. A common cause of number 3 of failure, I find for people, or mental blockage, is you got to change what you're reading. You got to just change where you're getting your information from. And if you buy an oxyfresh.com franchise, you actually coach the new business owners through those initial phases of startup. Matt, I think a lot of people can be scared of starting up. Walk us through what kind of coaching you provide for people when they first get started buying an oxyfresh.com franchise.
Yeah, it's literally everything. It's from motivation to get up out of bed. It's from actually getting reviews in the specific ways that we want you to do that. It's to hiring your employees. It's to, doing the cleanings. It's to talking to customers. It's for, even before you meet the customers, it's the call aheads. It's utilizing the software, changing the pricing structure if you need be. It's looking at reports inside the software so you understand on a day-to-day basis what's actually going on, right? That's why you don't even start operating for like 30 to 60 days, because we're just training on the infrastructure of the business so that when it does open, you're using the things that we built for you. And then ongoing, it's just people have a tendency to get stuck, even if they don't know what they're doing. They just get stuck going down a road that has nothing to benefit them. A good example of this would be like, if I'm a business owner, knowing what I know right now with OxyFresh, and I have one person that's willing to go knock on residential doors to get customers because they're just kind of not knowing what to do, right? I would say you'd be better off going and getting Google reviews than knocking on residential doors in our industry, because those Google reviews be long lasting and they'll be able to continue to grow business. The one-to-one customer on a street corner is not great. The one-to-one commercial customer, if you're going out and get commercial, is. So like the effort is there, right? Like these people are willing to do very uncomfortable things, but it's putting them in a path that's going to give them results, not waste their time.
Now, area number 3, I want to talk about this. The reasons for mental blockage is just constantly in reading and watching negativity. If you're constantly ingesting negativity, then you're going to have problems. When you team with OxyFresh, they're going to infuse you with positivity. And David J. Schwartz, the best-selling author, he wrote, "The mind is what the mind is fed." The mind is what the mind is fed. And when you buy an OxyFresh, I mean, you're going to be fed constant positivity and specific examples of what you need to do to become successful. Common cause of mental blockage number 4. Just learning from the opinions of people that don't know what they're talking about. Matt, if someone buys an OxyFresh franchise, the new franchisee is going to learn what works. I mean, you have 500 something territories open, so you know what works and you know what doesn't work. And you're going to be able to separate that new franchisee, separate what works from what doesn't work very quickly. So people aren't going to learn via guesswork. They're not going to learn from the opinions of people that don't know what they're talking about. Matt, can you talk about that for a second for anybody out there that has been maybe grown accustomed to learning from the random opinions of everybody?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have anything to do with you. They don't know what your goals are. They don't know your industry. If you're listening to advice from someone that lives in Orange County, California about how to get customers on Instagram, but you own an OxyFresh in Louisiana, that's not going to translate, right? Incomes are different, things are different. Like the reason the franchise works is because we locally will figure out how to get business for you and do those things specifically. So I like motivational things. I think you should follow them, but you also should realize like who are you following and why? What is the value? Is it just because they share the same opinions of you, or are they actually doing things and saying things to you that's going to motivate you to increase your life? I think that's the biggest factor for me. Is like if you're listening to things and it's not making your life better, I don't know if it's worth, besides maybe like comedy relief, right? I don't know if it's worth spending the time on it.
Comedy relief. I 100% agree with you. Now, moving on to the final area of mental blockage that I see people get stuck with before they team up with OxyFresh or discover a proven system. I see a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs always looking for a new idea. Yeah. Always looking for a shiny new idea, and as opposed to gaining traction with something that's been proven to work. And a good example would be, we know the hammer is a tool that works. Now, I'm not a hammer expert. I have worked in construction, but I know there is a hammer. It's a proven, it works. A wheel is a proven concept. A wall is a proven concept. The wheel, the hammer, these are things that have been proven to work. The wheel, the hammer, the wall. There are other things that have not been proven to work. And in fact, in business, there are so many new ideas every day that someone's developing, and not all ideas are a good idea. And with OxyFresh, one thing you teach franchisees, which I think is an unbelievable skill set to learn if you want to become successful, is the importance of consistency. When someone buys an OxyFresh franchise, you teach them about measuring your numbers and consistently implementing the proven system. Could you talk about how OxyFresh can help somebody who's maybe struggled with the idea of perpetually chasing new ideas?
Yeah, I mean, gosh. I mean, if you look at the richest people in your lives, and you can probably do this across any avenue of people, the people that have done things the longest outside of the Elon Musks of the world, like they're the ones that are most successful. They're experts at their craft. They figured out their environment to be successful. They figured out probably a work-life balance that actually is financially beneficial for them, right? They're also probably motivated because they know how, there's something that happens in business when you actually can put an action item to a number that will go into your pocket. Business becomes very fun, right? If you can't actually kind of see what you're doing and where the benefits are, it becomes very difficult. And every new idea, it's like you start with the idea and you try to figure out how you're going to do it. And then maybe it's a shot in the dark. Then you got to figure out who your customer base is. Then you got to go through trial and error. It's expensive. Right. Whereas if you are spending half a decade or a decade on a plan that you know works, that you're building repeat customers, where you have employees that actually appreciate you working with them, and you build like a culture, like you can actually have money pouring in because there's nothing that somebody can ask you that you don't have the answer for. And that's like intellectual gold, right? Like at this point, somebody could ask me anything about my business. I don't have to go ask anybody else. I don't have to like refer to a friend. I don't even have to pause. I can just say, this is what I would do. And then it's like, boom, it's to the point, it's effective, it's the right move because I've made a lot of wrong moves in my past, right? So you can basically become an expert of how money gets to your pocket.
Now, folks, if you want to learn more about buying an oxyfresh.com franchise, I would highly recommend you check out oxyfresh.com. That's oxyfresh.com, oxifresh.com. You go there, you're going to learn more about the OxyFresh brand. Matt, final question for you. How often do people need to secure some kind of financing before buying an OxyFresh? And what's the first step? So if someone's watching this right now, what's that first step? And how often do people need a little bit of help or financial coaching in order to buy an OxyFresh franchise?
It's like 80%, 70-80% of the time they need some form of funding. That's part of the process, right? If you go through like a coach or a broker, they'll help you. But if you go through like us, if you go through Thrive, we'll actually get you in touch with a couple different financial providers, and they'll talk to you about things like retirement rollovers and unsecured and secured lines of credit, SBA, and home equity lines of credit. And they'll also teach you about what the implications of that are. Right? Like this one might be great on the surface, but there's some long-term effects of like taxes. So they'll actually like bring you in and show you, they'll go through a soft pull and see kind of where you stand, what your finances are, if you even qualify, right? And one thing that's happened a lot here, Clay, is that I've probably, just not trying it, but I've probably helped thousands of people at this point just increase their credit because through this process, they realize they can't afford anything right now.
Matt, again, I appreciate you carving out time to be here with our listeners today. Matt Klein, folks, he's the franchise brand developer with OxyFresh, oxifresh.com, a great brand that's been growing and expanding for 2 decades now. They have over 500 locations. That's Matt Klein. Check him out today by going to oxyfresh.com. Schedule a free consultation today at oxyfresh.com. Matt Klein, you're a beautiful man, and I look forward to interviewing you next week, sir.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye. Folks, on today's show, I want to talk about mental blockage. And I find that a lot of people are stuck in life because of mental blockage. They just are stuck perpetually because there's certain mindsets they have that they won't let go of that are blocking their success. And if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you're going to see thousands of entrepreneurial success stories, many of which were stuck. And they reached out for help. We helped them get unstuck, and now they're having massive success. And I think about one client we have the honor of serving, officialsynapse.com, Dr. Spurl, that's officialsynapse.com. He's having a thriving and successful company, but he decided to get unstuck. So I want to start right there, Dr. Spurl. Why is it that you decided or why is it that you perpetually decide to not get stuck?
Well, I'm very much addicted to outcomes and to success. And what I've noticed is the most successful people become comfortable with the uncomfortables of life. And so there's certain things that you have to navigate through, and a lot of times you can't see them yourself. So asking for other people to give you some level of constructive feedback from people you trust, it can really be helpful. And what I've found is people who receive that and then actually do something about it get results. People who don't, they have this spirit of being a victim, the spirit of having to defend themselves. And so people who can receive the information, do something with it, will actually start to get better outcomes. And I'm very much on board with that.
What I want to do today is I want to get into these 5 areas of mental blockage that I see most commonly keeping entrepreneurs from achieving success. There's 5 areas, and I want to go one by one, and I want to respect your time. So we'll do kind of 15 minutes of fun here on this interrogation. One is people are controlled by fear. There's a fear of, well, what if it doesn't work out? Napoleon Hill, the best-selling author of Think and Grow Rich, who I named my son after, he once wrote, "You would take drastic steps to get rid of any poison that found its way into your food. So let it be with fear, the mind poison." Let's talk about fear for a second. Where do you put fear in your mind as an entrepreneur, as a doctor, when you started your practice and as you continue to grow it? Where does fear get placed in your life?
So fear happens, but as I've navigated and become better at the entrepreneurial side of things, it's something I recognize pops up, but I navigate through instantly. So when you are in fear, and from a doctor's perspective, when we have fear, it literally shuts down our prefrontal cortex, which is our decision-making, problem-solving part of the brain. So fear blocks growth. End of story. When it comes to running a business, it will happen. You'll have it many times, but you will not be able to conquer the fear unless you take a leap of faith. Then something's going to be some identity, some outcome will come from that leap of faith, and then you're going to get tested in that. And if you don't pass the fear test, you're just going to repeat that cycle and over. Once you learn to navigate the fear and then pass the test, then all of a sudden you get to the next level of entrepreneurship, and there's a blessing that comes from that. And so fear is something that happens, but the more you get good at your business or being an entrepreneur, the more you'll recognize it and circumvent it quickly.
Common cause number 2 of failure is being surrounded by negative people. Being surrounded by negative people. I just find that I have very little patience for negative people. I talked to a young person today who was interviewing for a job to work with us. And I said, well, hey, your resume looks outstanding. Your background looks great. You look like you want to be here. What day could we start? And I watched this person for about 10 minutes come up with every reason possible that they could not tell me when they wanted to start or when they could start. And I was thinking to myself, wow, if we can't even figure out the day that we're going to start, it's going to be tough to employ this person.
Yes.
Just like what the resume said. They almost had in their mind developed a reason as to why they couldn't start. Or it was very interesting because they wanted the job, but yet they almost had a self-defeating mindset when it even came to telling me what hours they could work with their schedule. Can you talk about just the negativity when you're surrounded by people that can't solve problems, people that just cannot seem to get things done? What begins to happen over time, whether it be medically or literally? What begins to happen to somebody who's perpetually surrounded by negativity?
So you actually decline yourself. And so it's like a virus. You're allowing a virus or bacteria into a poison into your business. And you taught me this. You taught me how to hire for culture and train skill. And there are people out there that have a solution for every problem. Those are the ones you want. And then there's people who have a problem for every solution. Those are the ones you don't want. So those are the things you have to navigate. And just because someone looks good on paper doesn't mean that's how they show up in life. So you got a lot of information there just by the fact they couldn't answer that simple question.
Now, Napoleon Hill, best-selling author, he once wrote, "You are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be." And if you're surrounded by people that don't believe that, that's going to really impact your brain over time. So again, that's why having a personal trainer for fitness is so powerful. That's why having an outside accountant look at your numbers is so powerful. That's why attending a church with a positive environment is so powerful. That's why having a doctor you can trust is so powerful. That's why having a business coach is so important and so powerful. Common cause of failure number 3 is just constantly choosing to ingest negative media. What?
Yeah.
Negative media. It is so possible to watch just endless negative media or to read endless negative books or negative magazines. But David Schwartz, the best-selling author, he writes, "The mind is what the mind is fed." I think it's very important for everybody, whether you tune into this show or other shows, that you need to feed your mind a constant diet of positive and practical training. I want to get your thoughts on that. What happens for the average person, that if they consume a diet of just constant and only negativity?
Well, it just depresses your function. In healthcare, again, there's an area of the brain that sets the tone for muscles and emotions. And the more you have the negative emotions from the content, it literally suppresses your muscles, which means you don't have the motivation to go do the work that you need to do. We just had a meeting about this with our leadership today. And that's one of the reasons why one of the things I do is we focus on, we raise the concerns during some of our meetings of what's not working right, but then we end every meeting with what is working right. And we talk about how things are pouring into our core values. And so it's crucial to feed yourself. And I love one of your books and your trainings. I go to it all the time because it's literally a solutions oriented book to talk about how to make your practice better, how to make your business better. And when you flood your mind with those things as well, it helps undo a lot of the negativity that's around us all the time. And that lifts you up and puts you into action. Completely different.
Now, common cause of a mental blockage or a failure number 4 is listening to just random opinions of people that have no idea where they're going. And as an example, I mean, Inc. Magazine, folks, don't believe me. I'm going to pull this up, and I want everyone to believe that I'm making this up, okay? So Inc. Magazine is saying right now that according to surveys and research that they've done, Inc. Magazine, as credible as they are, they report that 85% of employees now admit to lying on resumes. So if you're asking 85% of people for any feedback at all, it's probably based in bogusness. Now, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce now reports that 75% of employees are now stealing from the workplace. And I'm not attacking anybody out there that's been through a divorce, or somebody out there that's been through failure in business, or somebody out there that's. But what I'm saying is, on average, if you were to ask the average person for advice, please understand these are people that are stealing from the workplace. 75% of the American population is stealing from the workplace. 85% of employees are lying on resumes. The vast majority of people, according to Inc. Magazine, 96% of businesses fail. 96% of businesses fail. So if you were to ask the average person for feedback about how to grow a successful company, that's not a good idea. So I want to get your thoughts on this idea of deciding that you're no longer going to take random feedback from people that just are. You can't just take feedback from everybody based upon the fact that they are born. Can you talk about just not listening to random opinions of everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. This was a big one for me because I like to gather information and data, but I found out pretty early on it's important to pay attention to someone who's part of that 4% that's been successful for greater than 10 years. And so that's a big deal. And you may even have like an A+ employee. They're a great employee, but they could have really bad ideas. And one of the things I learned from you, and I've repeated this many times, and what I appreciate about you, Clay, is that you do it with a sense of humor as well, which I can actually onboard myself. But I can't tell you how many times this has come out of my mouth where I say to a good employee, that's a horrible idea. That's one of the best things that you taught me, was to be able to do that where it's received in a way like, man, I love you. You're awesome. Horrible idea. Let's move on.
And I think sometimes it requires a certain amount of self-deprecation or knowledge of what
Yep.
we're not good at. As an example, if I were to give anybody advice on how to ski well downhill in a snow environment, don't listen, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a good skier. I'm afraid of heights. I don't know it. Now, the good thing about me is I am self-aware. I'm not good at skiing, so I don't run around giving out advice about skiing. If there's somebody in your life that says, hey, listen, I would love to share with you my opinions on how you could make a lot of money. And you say, well, have you made money? They go, well, no, but here's my opinion. You got to just vet the source a little bit. Now, a common cause of failure number 5 I want to work with and work through today is idea hopping. Always looking for a new idea, refusing to stay diligent in spite of adversity and following a proven path. What do you say to the entrepreneurs out there that are used to a life of idea hopping? They're always getting a new idea from a talk show, from a radio show, from a podcast, from a YouTube video, from a new book. And then they constantly hop from new idea, hoping that the new idea will produce fruit, as opposed to sticking with something that's been proven to work.
Yeah, you need a solid foundation. So you will get way more out of restoring that foundation and using the things that are proven to work. It's just like going to the gym again. The great analogy. You build that muscle. It's the routine. It's the rhythm. It's the foundational stuff that's going to get you the results, not the new machine that can propel you forward for 6 weeks and then you fail again. So the foundational stuff is crucial for just maintaining a base that'll allow you to then just add to that base, and restoring and keeping that foundation established is one of the best things you can do for business.
Let's talk about your business for a second. You've been in business for a long time, doing things the right way. Officialsynapse.com. Tell the listeners out there about the solutions that you provide at officialsynapse.com.
Yeah, we've been in business 29 years now, and we provide answers for problems that people have when it comes to their health, how to live healthy in this world around us, mentally, chemically, and physically. We look and measure for a breakdown in communication to find the dysfunction and then correct the dysfunction. Very similar to running a good business, we will look at what's not communicating and functioning properly in body and restore it.
I'm going to pull up your website here one more time. It's officialsynapse.com, officialsynapse.com. But I also want to read a notable quotable that comes at us from Napoleon Hill. Again, such a great wealth of knowledge. He once wrote, he says, before success comes into any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. And that is exactly what the majority of men do. More than 500 of the most successful men this country has ever known told the author Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, that their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. What do you say to somebody out there that's been stuck for a long time and they feel like giving up?
That's such a good quote because it's so real and it's actually it's truth. And so we always say here, when you get stuck, ask a better question. And what I found is when I ask the right people a better question, I get the answers I need to help get me unstuck.
Now, again, folks, I'm pulling up that website. It's officialsynapse.com, officialsynapse.com. Tell the listeners about the solutions that you provide for anybody out there that's maybe not familiar with your practice, officialsynapse.com.
So we help people get unstuck with their health and what's not working in their actual healthy body, healthy mind, and especially navigating some of the misinformation that's out there worldwide when it comes to the health realm. We are a trusted resource. We have people that fly in from all 50 states and 12 countries just to work with us because of our results-driven operations that we have here.
Folks, if you're looking for a doctor you can trust, I encourage you to check out officialsynapse.com. That's Dr. Spurl, officialsynapse.com. Dr. Spurl, thank you so much for your time today, sir, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. And folks, on today's show, I want to talk to Dr. Sherwood, a guy who's had success in many areas. Let's talk about it. He's had success in fitness. He's been a pro athlete. He's had success as an author. He's been a best-selling author. He's had success in film production. He's had success as an entrepreneur. He was a member of the SWAT team, a member of the power team, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a guy who's refused to get stuck physically, mentally, financially. He's a guy who doesn't believe in getting stuck. So if you're watching this show today and you feel like, wow, I've been stuck from time to time or for a decade or a day or a week, and you just feel like you need to get unstuck, I've taken the time to identify what I perceive to be or what I've found to be as a business consultant the top 5 most common causes of getting stuck, these blockage areas. And the first one is being controlled by fear. Dr. Sherwood, I want to get your thoughts on this. I see a lot of entrepreneurs that, their business is stuck, but it seems as though they are fearful of doing the steps needed to get unstuck. Why are people often controlled by fear, sir?
I think it's the fear of the unknown, taking a chance, taking a risk. And as you well know, when you're running your own business, that is a risk in itself, but it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing. And then there's risk calculation, of course. But ultimately, you have to walk into these risky situations sometimes to grow forward. And if it fails, you learn something. If it succeeds, you learn something. Either way, when you fail to take a risk, you fail to take a chance, you fail to take a risk, take a chance, you are operating in fear. And a lot of times the fear that people that are holding on to them will hold them back from some of the greatest opportunities they've ever had.
One area, the second area that I find a lot of people get stuck in is they're surrounded by negativity. They're swimming in negativity. Friends, family, neighbors, maybe well-meaning people are just negative perpetually. And so they don't mean to, but people begin to smell like their environment. They begin to act like their environment. They become the average of the 5 people they spend the most time with. What would you say to somebody out there who's perpetually surrounded by negativity? Maybe they were raised in a home where negativity was common. Maybe they're living in an environment where negativity is common. What would you say?
You got to get out physically if you can, but mentally if you must. Because here's the deal. With negativity, you as you stated, you become like the 5 people you hang around with the most, and you begin to talk like them. You begin to speak like them, and everything you say is like always about failure. It's always about fear. It's always about what if you don't. I remember when I was transitioning from a police officer to an naturopathic doctor, I had many people tell me, you can't do that. And I chose to get away from them. Now, again, that's just how I was able to do that. But sometimes you got family members you can't do that. But if you can't get away from it, you got to get away from it emotionally, because it will suck you down that vortex and you will become just like them, and your speech patterns, your behavior patterns will mimic those around you.
It's so important for everybody out there. If you're listening to today's show and you feel stuck in any way, do not allow yourself to be surrounded by perpetual negativity. Common area of blockage, or common reason for blockage number 3 that I see pattern that causes blockage, is just constantly consuming only negative information. As an example, if you went to usdebtclock.org and looked at the national debt clock and you just looked at it and pondered it every single second of every day, at a certain point, you would begin to lose all hope, I would think, if there's nothing you can do about it. Can you talk about balancing we need to read, we need to be aware of what's going on to a certain extent, so we don't set ourselves on fire, and so we don't get attacked by a terrorist organization as we're deciding to take up jogging in the middle of a terrorist-ridden country that's experiencing violence or something. So we got to be aware to a certain extent, and we probably don't want to be going for a stroll down the beach in the amidst the middle of a hurricane. But we also don't need to perpetually fill our mind with only negativity. Talk about the balance there, sir.
Yeah, it's awareness instead of domination, and I mean that sincerely, because the more you should be aware of things. We should be aware of what's going on in the world. You should be aware of your surroundings. We should be aware. I remember you turned me on to the debt clock years ago, and you should be aware of what's going on. But that doesn't mean it needs to dominate your thoughts. It's like when you come in to do a health screening or a lab with us. Many times there's things in there that are not going in a good direction. But we choose to guide a person away from those negative things and choose to say, okay, be aware of that. Here's what you can do to change it. Here's what you can do to avoid that. Here's what you can do to even eliminate that. So it's about reframing and just using a little bit of wisdom on that, because, man, there's negative all around. And if that's all you listen to all the time, it will get in you and on you.
Next area is deciding not to learn from everybody. What? Yeah, deciding not to just take advice from every random person you encounter. We don't want to just learn from the opinions of others. We need to learn from people that know the way, that go the way, that show the way. Let's talk about that for a second. You've had massive success in fitness. You've had massive success as a doctor. Let's focus on the fitness thing for a minute. A lot of times people will see you and they see the level of fitness that you've been able to achieve. Well, clearly at some point you found a mentor or a source of wisdom to learn about fitness and physique and training. Could you talk about that? What was your path to going from a guy who, was maybe into the gym to being a guy who really knew his way around and became a guy who learned the specific steps? Because again, I think by default what happens is we learn from the opinions of everybody. And next thing you know, you're taking fitness advice from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Well, you've got to look the part. In other words, if you're going to be a teacher. So if you're going to seek somebody out, make sure they're looking the part, doing the part, are the part before you ever seek advice from them. I remember this was years and years ago. I was in Australia living, playing baseball. And I always thought, if I could get more fit or more strong, it could help me be a better, more power hitter, right? And I went to the gym. I had nothing else to do. And there was this one guy over there. I kept watching him, and he seemed to have it all together: flexible, strength, and powerful. And I just began to watch him. We never talked, not one time, but I began to observe what he did, and I began to practice what he did. And then eventually I began to preach what he did, and I learned more and more. And at the same time, you can also learn from the other side of the coin. Watch what people are doing that doesn't work. And so you have both opportunities to watch both sides, but over the course of time, you can put those two pieces of data together, information inputs, and create these, notable, reliable outputs of results.
Now, idea hopping is a big area that causes perpetual failure, causes blockages. When people are always looking for a new idea as opposed to implementing an idea that's been proven to work. Can you talk for a second about idea hopping? I think it's important as an entrepreneur. It's important as an entrepreneur to continue taking in, new ideas and being open to new things. But I think a lot of people are guilty of hopping from one idea to the next. Almost like if you're sowing seeds, you're digging up the seeds you just planted to check on them to see if they're growing. Can you talk about the balance there?
Yeah, that's shiny ball chasing. You got to stay locked in, man. You got your goal. One thing my wife and I have done over the years, I've chased some shiny balls. Of course, we all can. We all do. I'm capable of being an idiot or a blessing in the same breath, man. But the bottom line is you got to stay laser locked on your lane, what you're trying to do. And if it doesn't run through the filter of what you're trying to do, don't do it. We have a mission statement at the Functional Medical Institute, which is this: leading people down the pathway of true healing. And that's a big bucket. But if it doesn't run through that path, then I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay locked in my lane, doing my thing, and I don't get, distracted by, different ideas. Listen to ideas, but don't let ideas become the dominant thing, because you get too many things going and you lose track of the thing you're doing. When you lose track of the thing you're doing, you're not good at anything. You just have a bunch of random things. You never complete a task.
Dr. Sherwood, one thing I love about having you on the show is you help people get unstuck with their fitness all the time. I help people get unstuck with their business. And I think there's a lot of parallels there that cause people to get stuck. Perhaps there's a few other common traits of what causes people to get stuck. If you had to think for a second about people and why they often get stuck, or maybe the reasons they tell themselves why they're stuck, or the justifications for being stuck, or the feedback that you often hear from somebody previous to getting them unstuck. What are a couple other areas where you see, or a couple other reasons why people tend to be stuck before they team up with you and your team at Sherwood.tv?
There's a couple of things that stick out. One is what I call the comparison trap. It goes like this. It sounds like this. Well, at least I'm better than so-and-so. At least I'm not as bad as so-and-so. Again, that's a comparison trap, because really it's not about you being comparable to anybody else. It's about you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what? It's up to me to be my best, to make my best better every single day. Another thing that people fall into is that they call the normalcy trap. Well, it's normal. And in today's world, in my world, it is very normal to be sick. It's very normal to be overweight. It's very normal to have leaky gut and metabolic issues. But that's not normal. So just because it's the most common thing does not mean it's normal. And then the last one sort of tags onto that one is, if you want to be great at anything, you've got to be willing to do things alone, away from the crowd, and not follow the crowd with everything. I learned a lesson a long time ago, Clay, that goes like this. I would rather be in the right, in my passion, all alone, than being with the crowd in the wrong. And I really mean that, because you can steer yourself in the right direction by just staying in your lane and staying focused on what you're supposed to do and learning new things. I'm not trying to be normal. I'm trying to be extraordinary. And just like you, the extraordinary people are the ones that are not afraid to grab that machete and blaze a trail, cut some weeds, and make it. Maybe other people want to follow behind, but only a few people will decide to blaze that trail. And that's what we're trying to teach, at the Functional Medical Institute. And that's what we're trying to teach in health. And I know that's what you're trying to teach in business.
I know that a lot of people that I have referred to you, or that have found out about your program at Sherwood.tv via the Thrivetime show. A lot of people that have discovered your program, Sherwood.tv, via the Thrivetime show program. What I noticed first is a lot of people are surprised at how much excess fat or excess weight they can lose quickly. Not overnight, but I find that people that team up with you in 30 days, people are often down 7 pounds, 10 pounds. I find that people in 6 months are often down 20 pounds. I find people that are with you a year are down 40 pounds. I just see a pattern over and over. Could you talk about some realistic goals for anybody out there that's maybe going to Sherwood.tv for the first time? They're going to Sherwood.tv for the first time because they want to optimize their health. And we're not making a claim. We're not saying, hey, if you sign up for the program, you'll lose this much weight in this amount of time. But what are some average kind of results that you see from committed people that are willing to follow your mentorship?
Well, it always depends on how far they are above an ideal scale weight and how far above in fat pounds they have as compared to ideal fat pounds on the frame. But ultimately, if someone's substantially overweight, they can lose 1 or 2 pounds a week. No problem. That's very common. And that's being average. So let's look at that, over the course of a month, maybe 8 pounds, but that doesn't mean it would be 2 pounds every week. 1 week you may lose 3 pounds. 1 week you may lose 1 week you may lose 4, and 1 week you may lose 0. But that's kind of a very common thing. From a percentage of body fat comparison, typically, again, depends on how far they are above where they need to be, but usually 1 to 2% per month of percent body fat loss. And those two things right there, Clay, do equate to many, many times in a miraculous, very expeditious manner, normalizing labs. And I don't mean normal labs that are normal compared to the world standards. I'm talking about labs that are normal to being optimized and everything.
Now, Dr. Sherwood, I realize you could have been a male model, but you chose to be a doctor. For anybody out there that wants to learn more about you, what's the best way for people to learn more about you? I know people Google search you every day, all day, just because they want to see a male model. They type in Dr. Sherwood and they go, man, that guy's jacked. So I know a lot of people have done that. They've gone online, they type in Dr. Mark Sherwood, and they click on images. And that's what most people have done. That's how they found you. Most people are just going, this guy is jacked. Look at this guy. He is jacked. He is shredded. Oh man, this guy's jacked. But for people who, beyond just the eye candy, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, sir?
Oh, they reach out to us on the website you've given, Sherwood.tv. And there's a way you can actually register for a free webinar that's the second Tuesday of every month. And it's free. One of your favorite words to say, it's free. Did I tell you it's free? And so we talk about all what we do, give people a chance to ask questions, and they do. through the chat bar. And we actually answer those questions, my wife, Dr. Michelle, and I, and then people can schedule an appointment if they want to. All that said, they can go through a free webinar to see if it's a fit. And then we give them an opportunity to schedule a consult in a very rapid time frame, usually 2 to 3 weeks out, which is very, very good for people like us. And it's at a discounted rate because they went to the webinar. So it's a win-win for all.
Dr. Sherwood, thank you so much for carving out time. If you're watching this show today and you feel stuck at all, choose to get unstuck. Check out Sherwood.tv. Dr. Sherwood, we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, Clay.
Bye-bye.
Clay Clark, man, he is one character.
It's a good word for him. Character. Yeah, that is it.
Good, driven, smart. And I've never met a guy who was so hyper all the time. He's doing so much good. And then I met his mother, and she just says, she just lets him be Clay Clark. I mean, so he's endorsed by his mother, and he's doing magnificent work. So it was great meeting you out there and all the people that he surrounds himself with. Clay Clark starts his days at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, he's a machine. He's a machine.
But I have problems with my company starting at 9 o'clock. Yes, hundreds of people showing up at 5 a.m. in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Man, he's a leader of a leader. He's a fantastic young man.
Oh, he is. He is.
He has just a wealth of knowledge. He's worked with so many different companies and different businesses. He could take a concept that he's used before in the past with somebody totally different industry and see how it would work perfectly for you in whatever niche market you're in or whatever type of service you're providing. And so his brain is just a wealth of knowledge, and just to have that type of perspective on, as a part of your team and your own company is huge, super valuable. So I would definitely encourage people to use him. But one thing is, you got to be coachable. You got to be wanting to get feedback. You got to be wanting to really grow your company. You got to want to put that extra 10 hours a week to working on your business and not just in your business. And so, yes, I would recommend it to anybody who's wanting to grow their company and provide great systems, checklists, workflows, great encouragement, and have accountability.
Hi, I'm Aaron Antis with Shaw Homes. I first heard about Clay through a mortgage lender here in town who had told me what a great job he had been doing for them, and I actually noticed he was driving a Lamborghini all of a sudden, so I was willing to listen. In my career, I've sold a little over $800 million in real estate. So honestly, I thought I kind of knew everything about marketing and homes. And then I met Clay, and my perception of what I knew and what I could do definitely changed. After doing $800 million in sales over a 15-year career, I really thought I knew what I was doing. I've been managing a large team of salespeople for the last 10 years here with Shaw Homes. And I mean, we've been a company that's been in business for 35 years. We've become one of the largest builders in the Tulsa area, and that was without Clay. So when I came to know Clay, I really thought, man, there's not much more I need to know, but I'm willing to listen. The interesting thing is our internet leads from our website has actually, in a 4-month period of time, has gone from somewhere around 10 to 15 leads in a month to 180 internet leads in a month. Just from the few things that he's shown us how to implement that I honestly probably never would have come up with on my own. So I got a lot of good things to say about the system that Clay put in place with us, and it's just been an incredible experience. I am very glad that we met and had the opportunity to work with Clay. So the interaction with the team and with Clay on a weekly basis is honestly very enlightening. One of the things that I love about Clay's perspective on things is that he doesn't come from my industry. He's not somebody who's in the home building industry. I've listened to all the experts in my field. Our company has paid for me to go to seminars, international builder shows, all kinds of places where I've had the opportunity to learn from the experts in my industry. But the thing that I found working with Clay is that he comes from such a broad spectrum of working with so many different types of businesses that he has a perspective that's difficult for me to gain because I get so entrenched in what I do, I'm not paying attention to what other leading industry experts are doing, and Clay really brings that perspective for me. It is very valuable time every week when I get that hour with him. From my perspective, the reason that any business owner who's thinking about hooking up with Thrive needs to definitely consider it is because the results that we've gotten in a very short period of time are honestly monumental. It has really exceeded my wildest expectation of what he might be able to do. I came in skeptical because I'm very pragmatic, and as I've gone through the process over just a few months, I've realized it's probably one of the best moves we've ever made. I think a lot of people probably feel like they don't need a business or marketing consultant because they maybe are a little bit prideful and like to think they know everything. I know that's how I felt coming in. I mean, we're a big company that's definitely one of the largest in town. And so we kind of felt like we knew what we were doing. And I think for a lot of people, they let their ego get in the way of listening to somebody that might have a better or different perspective than theirs. I would just really encourage you, if you're thinking about working with Clay, I mean, the thing is, it's month to month. Go give it a try and see what happens. I think in the 35-year history of Shaw Homes, this is probably the best thing that's happened to us. And I know if you give them a shot, I think you'll feel the same way. I know for me, the thing I would have missed out on if I didn't work with Clay is I would have missed out on literally an 1,800% increase in our internet leads, going from 10 a month to 180 a month. That would have been a huge financial decision to just decide not to give it a shot. I would absolutely recommend Clay Clark to anybody who's thinking about working with somebody in marketing. I would skip over anybody else you were thinking about, and I would go straight to Clay and his team. I guarantee you're not going to regret it because we sure haven't.
My name is Danielle Sprick, and I am the founder of D Sprick Realty Group here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After being a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and my 3 kids started school and they were in school full-time, I was at a crossroads and trying to decide what do I want to do? My degree and my background is in education, but after being a mom and staying home and all of that, I just didn't have a passion for it like I once did. My husband suggested real estate. He's a home builder, so real estate and home building go hand in hand, and we just rolled with it. I love people, I love working with people, I love building relationships. But one thing that was really difficult for me was the business side of things, the processes and the advertising and marketing. I knew that I did not have what I needed to make that what it should be. So I reached out to Clay at that time, and he and his team have been extremely instrumental in helping us build our brand, help market our business, our agents, the homes that we represent. Everything that we do is a direct line from Clay and his team and all that they've done for us. We launched our brokerage, our real estate brokerage, 8 months ago. And in that time, we've gone from myself and one other agent to just this week, we signed on our 16th agent. We have been blessed with the fact that we right now have just over 10 million in pending transactions. 3 years ago, I never would have even imagined that I would be in this role that I'm in today, building a business, having 16 agents. But I have to give credit where credit's due, and Clay and his team and the business coaching that they've offered us has been huge. It's been instrumental in what we're doing. Don't ever limit your vision. When you dream big, big things happen.
I started a business because I couldn't work for anyone else. I do things my way. I do what I think is in the best interest of the patient. I don't answer to insurance companies. I don't answer to large corporate organizations. I answer to my patient, and that's it. My thought when I opened my clinic was I can do this all myself. I don't need additional outside help in many ways. I went to medical school, I can figure this out. But it was a very, very steep learning curve. Within the first 6 months of opening my clinic, I had a $63,000 embezzlement. I lost multiple employees. Clay helped us weather the storm of some of the things that are just a lot of people experience, especially in the medical world. He was instrumental in helping with the specific written business plan. He's been instrumental in hiring good quality employees, using the processes that he outlines for getting in good talent, which is extremely difficult. He helped me in securing the business loans. He helped me with web development and search engine optimization. We've been able to really keep a steady stream of clients coming in because they found us on the web. With everything that I encountered, everything that I experienced, I quickly learned it is worth every penny to have someone in your team that can walk you through and even avoid some of the pitfalls that are almost invariable in starting your own business. I'm Dr. Chad Edwards, and I own Revolution Health and Wellness Clinic.
Clay, my honor to be on your show, and thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects, you know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you, so congratulations.
And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. Hi, I'm Kelsey with K&D's Woodruff Finishing. I'm business owner at 23. So I've been working this K&D's company for about 5 years now, and we started working with Thrive not too long ago. And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. That's what we're going to hit or exceed. So we're pretty excited about that. It's been pretty much just listening to what they have to say. Their hiring process has just really been incredible as far as finding good quality help, and the just the accountability of meeting up with them weekly, and like such good insight, the resources that they have for specific business questions. It's all been really incredible. It's been a great experience, so I would recommend it to anybody.
What I've seen from Clay and his group at Thrive is they'll give you a simple system, and it's the simple systems are the ones that people can wrap their brain around. They're the ones that people can work with on a day-to-day basis.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Pipkin. I am 24 years old and I own Black River Falls Cleaning Services. We opened in April of 2019 and it is now mid-June of 2020. So I wanted to talk today about the success and growth I have achieved by implementing the Proven Path with Clay Clark's team and my business coach Luke from Thrivetime. It has been insane to say the least. I started working with them in mid-February of this year, so we're about 4 months in of working together, and it has completely transformed my business in pretty much every facet. So I'm gonna check my notes here. So in 4 months, my leads have tripled. I was getting probably like 2 leads a week. Now I'm getting more in the like 10 to 15 leads a week. I have doubled my number of employees. I'm now hitting the highest revenue weeks in the history of the company, week to week it seems like. We went from about 6 appointments today as our highest in February to now 14 to 15 appointments a day. And hiring quality employees has become much simpler and less stressful by using their systems for hiring. I typically only get maybe 2 complaints a month, if that, and everybody shows up to work. I just have really high quality employees now, especially in something people typically consider a high turnover type of work, you know, cleaning houses, cleaning businesses. I have amazing employees now, and I get rid of the ones who are not so amazing and bring on new ones because of, you know, group interviews and interviewing every single week. It's just been great and such a I don't waste as much time on low quality candidates anymore. And your coach will hold you accountable. I mean, which I love. Again, the tough love is really great. You know, Luke's like a stern father figure, but he's also nice, but also stern when he needs to be, when I'm being lazy and not doing the things that I know I need to do because I don't want to do them. So that's just great. Worth every penny. I mean, I'd pay him $1 million a month if I can, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I would just say go for it. If it seems like a good fit, just go for it. Do what they say, even if you think it's stupid or ridiculous, just do what they say because it'll work. You know, people, when they look at my business, you know, people in my town, they think I'm lucky. They think I'm just, you know, things just happen for me. And, you know, maybe I am lucky, but it has a lot to do with hard work and, you know, perseverance and, you know, working till you cry sometimes. That's just being an entrepreneur, which if you're a business owner, you understand that. But it's having these systems in place of, you know, of course I'm going to be successful. It's an absolute because I have all this stuff in the background happening, and I have Luke and Clay and everybody on their team working really hard to make sure that I'm a success. And I can tell that they are just so excited every single week when I'm having all these wins and things like that. They're so excited for me. So it's the best thing ever, and I would suggest to anybody to work with them. So sorry for the long-winded reply, but I just had so much to say, and I could go on for hours probably about how amazing they are. But thank you to Clay and Luke and the entire team there, everything you guys have done for me, and I am so excited to continue to work with you for years to come. Thanks so much for watching.
My saying is, if it's important to you, hire a coach. And I think that's one of the reasons people are not successful is they eat a cheeseburger instead of hiring a coach, you know what I mean? And so my coach pushes me. They're younger than me. They push harder. They're trained. And as my rich dad always said, you know, amateurs don't have a coach, but professionals always have coaches. So I've always had coaches for whatever is important. You know, my rich dad was one of those persons. I wanted to learn how to play Monopoly in real life, so he was my coach.
I always wish that I had this, and because there wasn't anything like this, I would go to these motivational seminars, no money down, real estate, Ponzi scheme, get motivated seminars, and they would never teach me anything. It was like you went there and you paid for the big chocolate Easter bunny, but inside of it, it was a hollow nothingness. And I wanted the knowledge, and they're like, oh, but we'll teach you the knowledge after our next workshop. And the great thing is we have nothing to upsell. At every workshop, we teach you what you need to know. There's no one in the back of the room trying to sell you some next big get-rich-quick, walk-on-hot coals product. It's literally, we teach you the brass tacks, the specific stuff that you need to know to learn how to start and grow a business. And I encourage you to not believe what I'm saying, and I want you to Google the Z66 auto auction. I want you to Google elephant in the room. Look at Robert Zellner and Associates. Look them up and say, are they successful because they're geniuses, or are they successful because they have a proven system? When you do that research, you will discover that the same systems that we use in our own business can be used in your business. Come to Tulsa, book a ticket, and I guarantee you it's going to be the best business workshop ever, and we'll even give you your money back if you don't love it. We've built this facility for you, and we're excited to see you.